Hi, this is Damien AtHope, and this video is going to be just about me, so I hope that you like it. It's going to be about me. It's going to be an unscripted, just off the top of my head thing about my life. I make a lot of videos of different things, issues, but this is just going to be about me. So I was born in California, Southern California. Specifically, I was born in Long Beach, California. And I was raised in Southern California. I didn't leave there until I was about 23. And I, at that time, moved to Oregon, around Portland area. Anyways, I was born in Long Beach, and we moved from Long Beach to Huntington Beach. The one thing about my birth, I was born mildly intersexed, and which I did not learn about from my parents. Actually, I found out much later. But they circumcised me, but they also did reconstructive surgery to the bottom of my penis to make it normal, or what they considered normal. And the thing is that they never told me that I was intersexed and that I may not feel normal, no matter how I looked. And this really affected a lot of my life because of not feeling normal. And but anyways, my parents were in the local church, which is a religious cult of Christianity, and it's run by Witness Lee, and basically it's got a lot of similar things to Jehovah's Witness, in the fact that they really don't celebrate birthdays or Christmas or things like that, holidays, because it's taken away focus from God. You should be focusing on God, not on man. So that also had a big effect on my childhood, just that alone. We didn't watch TV, we didn't really listen to radio, we didn't do sports, we didn't have friends over that were not religious. We had a very encapsulated life. And because of that, then there was, I'm really surprised they didn't homeschool me. I'm sure that if they could have, they would have. My mom left. My dad was abusive to my mom and to us kids. At the time, my mom was abusive somewhat too, with spanking, but mainly it was always been my father. And my mom also sexually abused me with excessive enemas, and especially when I was younger, not really once I got older. But these things had a large effect on my life because of the abuse and the social isolation in the religious cult, and the basic just isolation in general, not around people. It's affected me socially. Even still to this day, I have some problems because of the abuse. So I was excessively spanked. I have been punched before. I had my father take a 2x4 and hit me with it, and I was bent over to be spanked, and he broke my tailbone. My father was extremely abusive. I never have faulted my mother for leaving him. I've seen her get hit by him. I was asleep as a kid and scared when pots and pans, go flying down the hallway. My mom trying to fight back, and I seen her one time, and he hit her about the dinner. She picked up a steak and she smacked him in the face with it. But no whether she fought back or not, it creates a completely violent, hostile environment, on top of the fact of being abused. And so my mom finally got fed up. He was super controlling. Let me just go back to sex with my dad so you understand more than just some abuse. Because it wasn't like that's the only thing he did. And he didn't just control us kids. I mean, he took the radio out of my mom's car to make sure she wasn't accidentally tempted by Satan to listen to the radio and thus have some sort of a outside influence other than religion that, he wanted to make sure always that we were completely isolated from anything that wasn't religious. So we had no outside influence. And he made her wear dresses and wanted her to cover her head, and he wouldn't let her wear makeup and stuff. But my mom, while this was going on, my mom started getting with people that were kind of hippies and swingers and nudists, and there were people being nude next door, and my mom became friends with them. Anyways, so she left us kids with my dad when she left. She left us, which I understood thoroughly, but she didn't take us. She left us with the fucking monster that was my father. And this really hurt me. And later, now as an adult, it hurts me even more, because not only did she leave us, she went and lived with the freaking swingers and nudists and stuff. She was having, a nice single lifestyle and enjoying herself while we were suffering. And that really really pissed me off. And made me feel hurt, and it made me feel more hurt even now, knowing that, because I understand, that how selfish that was. She knew that we were going to take hell, and she just didn't care. She only cared about herself. And she tried to make some excuse that, oh, well, the people that I was with, wouldn't let you be there. I don't know. I would do anything to protect kids. I just have no respect for what she did. And my father then ended up sexually molesting my sister when my mom left, and he became more abusive to me. I had to give him back rubs, and I had to do the cleaning and cooking, and he constantly belittled me and made fun of me. He used to pick up my shirt and pinch my skin, telling me I was fat in front of his friends. And at the time, I really wasn't even fat. And he used to starve us, me particularly, more than the other kids. And going to school, he would say that we can have a half of a banana for lunch. That's it, nothing else, because he felt that he could survive lunch off of just a banana, and since we were half his size, that we only needed half a banana. And I was hungry all the time. I used to eat berries, they're not even really edible, but things in California, and things I used to eat sour grass. And then I also started bullying other kids for lunch. I wouldn't steal their whole lunch, but I would steal an apple from the lunch, or half their sandwich, or their bag of chips, or trying to get food. And of course, this causes conflict, and I started getting in fights. And since I already was being punished and hurt and hit at home, being violent, was like a second nature to me at school. Other kids that were my size were not gonna, freaking do anything to me. And my first expulsion for fighting was in first grade. I was expelled for a week for beating a kid and putting him in the hospital. And he bit my arm and made a scar. But I also didn't do school the way probably a lot of people did, and the fact that I was held back in kindergarten. I went through kindergarten, and they felt that I had learning disabilities, or was too slow, or didn't understand. And I don't think I have learning disabilities. I think in big picture, ideas like philosophy and stuff like that are a lot easier for me, and things like math and details in science are a lot harder. Details in general, remembering specific things, is a lot harder for me. It's not easy for me, even to this day. But as far as intellect, I am smart. It's just how I think is a little different. But so I also think that the other issue really was, besides that, why I couldn't do good in school, why they held me back, is because I was being abused. And abused kids who are abused and neglected, which I definitely was, neglected and abused, they have a problem with their brain development, and can actually be atrophied, which I do believe that I was. Not to mention the emotional turmoil you're going under, going to school, and then on the fact that I wasn't being fed right. It can cause a lot of problems. I wasn't able to focus, and I just didn't give a fuck. And then my parents, also the other issue is, my parents, even from a young age, were telling me, that God was going to come back before I ever got out of high school. I mean, so it really didn't even matter if it was almost like insignificant. Why even go to school? Why even care? It didn't matter. God was going to come back, and the world was going to end. And they were just fanatical. They would go out in the streets a couple times, I remember, and they had white shirts on, like white robes with red writing, humongous, going to hell and all this, hold signs, crazy like street preachers and stuff. And they would also embarrass me by going down our neighborhood to neighbors. Have you, wanted me to come with them? Have you heard about Jesus? And it's just a lot of indoctrination. And so it really is a lot for me when I was a child to go under, and I just couldn't focus on school. So sorry if I jump around. don't do like a smooth timeline. I'm more of a creative person than a structured person. So bear with me. If you like me, you like me. And if you don't, well, I don't know what I can say about it. But it's genuine. I'm really trying to give you a genuine, thing about me, and I am a genuine person. So one of the things that happened also is when I was in school, and I had such problems even after being held back a year because of emotional problems and all these other things that I'm talking about. I got put in special ed, and I was in special ed until 7th grade. In 7th grade, the reason I was taken out of special ed is because they actually finally tested me. Not what I was working at, but my mental abilities, how I could cognitively understand things. So to give you an idea of what was going on, in 7th grade, they deemed from the test that I was working at a 2nd grade level, or something close to it, maybe 2nd, 3rd, 1st. I was working at a very, very low level. I didn't understand spelling and math and, all kinds of stuff. But here's the other issue. Mentally, the ability to grasp concepts, I was probably 2nd or 3rd year college. And this is without any help or assistance, from the people. So they realize there's something really wrong. Here's a smart kid who definitely understands, very hard concepts, and yet he's doing seriously terrible in school. So you would think that they would give me extra tutoring or some kind of extra help. No. What they did was take me from the relatively easy classes, which expected almost nothing, but you basically not to fight the teachers, which of course I did twice. One time I hit a teacher and got suspended, and the other time I was also in a fight they were trying to stop. Then I also was pushed by a teacher because he had left the room, and some kid had thrown in our our special ed class, had thrown a chair and it actually stuck in the wall. I mean, the legs were sticking in, the whole chair was sticking out of the wall. I laughed my ass off. That was funny. Well, I was often a troublemaker and caused issues and was rebellious against authority. And the teacher assumed that since I was laughing and there was a chair on the wall, he just came up and started pushing me. And when he did that, I just beat the shit out of him until he started crying and telling me to stop. And then I kind of came out of my, I don't know, funk or whatever, realizing, uh-oh, I'm beating the teacher up. So I ran out of the room and then got caught by the principal. And the teacher wanted me expelled for, ever. Like kicked out of school for good, and or jail or whatever. But the principal felt that the teacher knew that I had emotional and anger problems and violence problems, because I had also already been expelled for 3 months for the last of the school year in elementary, around, I don't remember exactly now, but in elementary, and then I also had like 4 other expulsions, and I had probably at that point in time like maybe 10 or 15 suspensions, and a lot of them for fighting. And so the teacher knew that, he said the teacher knew that I was violent, and for the teacher to physically assault me and then expect me to not do anything was also the teacher's fault. So they suspended the teacher for like, I think it was a day or two. They suspended me for about a week, 3 days. I don't remember exactly now, but I can't remember exactly the time. But anyways, they suspended me longer, and when I came back, it ended up me and that teacher actually became friends, because I think that at that point he realized, I don't know, for some reason he realized that I really was going through a lot of shit, and I had a lot of emotional problems, and I really wasn't wanting to just beat up and hurt people. Most of the time I was just like, it was like reactionary. I wasn't gonna take shit from fucking anyone, and anybody that came near me and I just wanted to hurt them. And I didn't really ever hurt women. I was more angry at men. I didn't really see women as a threat. Probably a lot of my anger also had to do with my father abusing me. So we'll go back to a little bit of my childhood. My dad also did some pretty wild things. My mom, right before my mom, probably like 6 or 7, I don't remember exactly, right before my mom left, she decided she wanted to try to give us a Christmas or something like that. So if you wait till like Christmas Eve, they'll almost give you the trees for free because they don't care. So my mom figured she'd get this tree almost free, and she would buy some just little presents, because we never had nothing. We never got presents, and she figured she would just, do something and it would make us happy. So she put it up, and she put the little, couple little ornaments or something that was real cheap on, or whatever, I don't remember exactly, but she put the presents on the tree. Well, when my dad came home, you would have thought that she had erected a satanic temple in the house. I mean, he freaking flipped. And he took a hatchet and he started hacking this freaking tree up right in front of us, and it was terrifying. I wasn't sure, he was so mad, if he was going to kill my mom and kill us. Like we had all been, corrupted by Satan, and were possessed by demons or something. I mean, he was absolutely losing it. And then he took the tree and he started trying to shove the pieces in the fireplace and burn it. And I remember just being absolutely terrified. And my father, being a psychopath. And then I thought he was going to burn the house down, because he's putting this tree and it's popping and stuff because of the sap. It's popping in the needles and it's hitting the carpet. It started to catch fire, and I'm like, look at this catching fire. And he's like, God's fire burns, and whatever, saying all this, crazy stuff, and just being a total, to me, psychopath. And he's just drunk on religion, which I think happens to a lot of people. You can see it in other countries and stuff, and in this country. People, when they get on that like religious high of a religious addiction, and they just act like total lunatics. And so he finally made sense, and I told him, why don't you just take it and put it in the garbage? And so he finally stopped trying to burn the house down, and he put it in the garbage. But he still was real mad. But anyway, my mom tried to talk to him and calm him down. And he said that because he was going to either burn the presents that she bought without opening them, or just throw them in the garbage. And she said, well, why don't we just wait a couple days, and then we can give it to them, and it won't be for Christmas. It'll just be, we're just going to give them presents, not even for a reason, just gifts. And somehow he said he was willing to do that. But the unrationalness of my family was very harsh. So after my mom left, one time my dad, I don't remember exactly why, but he was mad at my sister for something, and he wanted her to understand. He was mad, and he wanted us all to fear him. So he took a bow and arrow in the backyard with the cat, and he fucking shot the cat in front of us with the bow and arrow. And my sister closed her eyes and didn't look. I watched, and the cat went running off with the arrow out in its side and over the fence, and ended up getting hit by a car. And I remember lying to my sister, because she says it got away and didn't get hurt. I said it got away, but it got hit by a car. And so, but later I told my sister, no, he shot the cat. But this is the kind of father I had, just a psychopath. And he would do things, like one time he took me to this store, it's kind of like a super Walmart is now or something, but he took me to this, it's called Fedco, I think. He took me to the store, and he said, here, why don't you look at this, like camping stuff or something, because I something I like to look at something, because we never did nothing. Why don't you look at this stuff, and then come and find me in about 15 minutes, and then we're gonna go. So, and my dad didn't have a cell phone or anything, and I didn't have back then, so there was no way for me, for him to get a hold of me or call me and tell me he needed to go, or anyone to call him, tell him that he needed to go. So I only played stuff, or looked around for about 5 minutes, and then I started looking for him. Well, I couldn't find him, and I went outside and looked for the car, and he wasn't there, because he had a truck with this big camper shell in the back that would have been visible to anybody. And then I looked around the store more. Well, I waited about half an hour and couldn't find him. Then I went and told the store people, and then we waited about another half an hour. They called out loud and stuff. And then another hour goes by, and then another half an hour, and then all of a sudden there's a call, and it's my father's girlfriend, because this is when I was about, I don't know, 11, 12, something, I don't know. But maybe 13, I don't know, 12, I don't know. Anyways, but she calls, because my mom had left when we were 7. Anyway, she calls and says, oh, is he still there? Talking about me. And they said, yeah, he's looking for his dad. Oh, well, I'm the dad's girlfriend, and the dad called me and told me that he had decided he had to leave right after he dropped me off to go look at the camping stuff, because he had clients who kind of needed him. So really, and then she said that he get the time to call himself, which is weird since he was able to call her. But he couldn't call the store himself, and he also was too busy to come down and pick me up. So if I could wait another hour, or whatever, some amount of time, I can't remember exactly, but if I could wait, she would come when she gets off work to come pick me up. And I remember even the look on the people at the store, the security, they were dumbfounded. I mean, it's like completely abandoned me. Just left me and took off. And then wouldn't even call the store and didn't even care. It's just to give you an idea of some of the things my father... I actually fucking hate this bastard. And I don't talk to him today. I haven't talked to him in a long time. And I plan on... The only thing I plan on really doing when my father dies is going, if it's convenient for me. So I'm not going to fucking waste energy on this piece of shit. But if it's convenient for me, I will go and I will urinate on his grave. Because then it will be for me to do something which I feel, isn't directly harming him, but can give him exactly what low value I put on what he did for my life. But my father also did all kinds of wonderful things. Like he made sure that my sister and my brother, once my mom left, that they had a babysitter. And it feels pretty dog shit to have your two siblings getting a babysitter, because it also means they had shelter and they had bathroom and they had food. What I had was nothing. What I had was I'd be able to come home and stay in the backyard. I wasn't given a key to the house because he said I would lose it. But it's worse than that, because then I started breaking in the house to try to use the bathroom or to get something to eat. And so he took a screwdriver and he screwed in all the windows so I couldn't break in. So when I was younger, what I would do is I would eat the dry dog food if he left it out. But he realized I was doing that, so he stopped giving the dog dry dog food outside. So then I started eating oranges and grass and, sour grass or anything I could eat. Because sometimes my dad would come home at 6 o'clock, and sometimes he would come home 8 or whatever, and I would be freaking starving, especially since I didn't have really anything for lunch. And he really didn't care about us having breakfast. Really was just fucking starving. And then, of course, I had to go to the bathroom on the lawn like a dog because I didn't have any choice. And I would have to drink from the faucet of the house where the garden hose was. And I also didn't have any shelter. My dad, I really felt like shit because my dad, being a carpenter as a profession at the time, and also being a jeweler, but being a carpenter, he had a bunch of wood in the backyard, and he had like tarps for the wood, like laid over it. And sometimes when it was raining and cold, I would have to hide under the tarps for the wood, and with the spiders and the dust and everything, and just remember crying and feeling like, man, he gives a fucking more about wood. He cares about his own fucking child. I cannot tell you what it feels like to hide for hours under fucking a tarp for wood. I don't mean to be emotional, but my life was pretty fucked up. And I remember, speaking of feeling like outside, and like I said, especially to be under there and thinking, my sister and brother are watching TV, and they're being fed, and they're given drinks, and they have shelter, and they have people to talk to, and I'm all alone. And like I said, I don't have a lot of understanding that some people have about how to be social. And some of it's because I didn't have much social interaction in my life. Especially in a lot of my formative years. I didn't have what a lot of people have. And what I did have was a lot of hate and a lot of fear. And a lot of abuse and pain. And I remember too, my dad felt that I couldn't use the silverware right. So during dinner, several times, he made me stand outside and look through the window and watch the family eat, so that I would understand how to properly eat. But then I wouldn't get food. Just more starving and more abuse and more alienation. And it feels like a lot of shame too when you're the one isolated for this. And my father would also spank me for what my siblings did when I was there alone with them, sometimes like on weekends and whatever. When he would go do his religious stuff and I would be with the kids if they did anything wrong. And my sister is 2 years younger than me, and my brother is 5 years younger than me. But whatever they did wrong, I got spanked, I got punished, I got blamed. I constantly was told that I was the adult and I was supposed to control things. I was supposed to make sure they didn't do bad things. It made me feel very isolated and hating people in general. And I just really can't tell you enough of all of it. Things that he did and things that happened. But I don't think I really need to. I think that you kind of get the understanding, of what was going on. And but it wasn't just even that. I also, we lived in areas sometimes in California that had a lot of gangs, and it had a lot of violence. And first time I was jumped by more than 5 people was when I was, 9, 10, 11, 12, I don't know. Something I said, I never could. We went out, school went on a field trip to the zoo, and there was some Hispanic kids, and some of the white kids told me, hey, let's say these things in Spanish, and then it'll be funny or whatever. I didn't even know Spanish. I didn't understand it. So I was with them, and then there was about maybe, 15 white kids and like maybe 20 or something, I don't know exactly, Hispanic kids, and they started running over, and I just stood there. And then I looked around, and everybody that was there had left. All the other white kids that were supposedly to be with me. And so I thought I would start running. Well, it's too late. The Hispanic kids caught me, and they started punching me and stuff and ripping my shirt. But then they stopped and they told me, hey, do you want to get those guys that left? At least you were, tough enough to want to stand, to fight. And all your friends left you. So, of course, I thought, what a great idea. I actually do think that sounds pretty good to see them get beat up. And so they said, well, what you're going to do is we want you to you look beat up. I'm bleeding and stuff. My shirt is ripped, Walk towards them or whatever so that they, think it's nothing, and then we'll jump out and beat them up. So that's what I did. But once again, this just more made me not trust people. The fact that, people would act like they're with me and then just leave. And it also made me a lot more mistrusting of white friends. I started actively looking for friends that were more multicultural. I ended up with African American friends and with Hispanic American and Asian American friends. Probably more than than most people would have been, just because of my experience. And but I got in a lot of fights still, and a lot of I had like in my 7th grade year, because of just being so angry and stuff. At 13, by the way, 13 I went, or 12 and a half, whatever, something like that. I went and lived with my mom, because my mom said at 13 the court allows you to decide who you're going to live with, and I told my father that he better let me go live, with my mom, because I'll choose that. Why even go to court? I told him I freaking hate him. I had already stopped using his last name. And speaking of which, yeah. So I was born. I wasn't born with the name that I have now. Not any part of it. I have had my name legally changed more than once. So what I was born with, I was Joseph Daniel Tolosi. My father's name was Daniel, and his last name was Tolosi. And I believe that, I don't know exactly, but I think that his middle name is Joseph. And so I have a version I had a version of almost of his name. So, but my mom, I think when I was about 9 or something, she got a boyfriend through her swinger friends, who set her up on a date for sex. And but then he ended up becoming more like a stepdad, and they started, which now they've been married, I think, 32 years or something. I don't know. So I don't know exactly, but a long time. Anyways, I decided that way before he never officially became my stepdad ever, but way before he even decided that he was really gonna, I think, even marry my mom. I can't remember. Maybe he had married her, so I don't know. But I decided that I was just gonna, at school, I was just gonna refuse to write Tolosi. I started writing his name, which was Sturt, and I just didn't give a shit. And I told the school that this is the way it's gonna be, because I hate my freaking real father, and I just don't care. And so it never got legally changed, like in court, but because I just started using it always and forced them, they just changed it on the school transcripts. And I went through the rest of my school year or time with the last name Sturt. So my dad he already knew that I hated him, because he's seen this stuff at school. I no longer had his last name. And I got abused for it, but I just didn't care. I refused to acknowledge that I was any part of him. So he let me go live with my mom, and that's why I say it's about 13 that I started watching TV once in a while. Still, my mom was very controlling of what we watched. Everything had to be or listened to, but I was able to listen to music. And I was able to, have friends. I was able to go spend the night at friends. I was able to have friends spend the night at me. We celebrated Christmas. We celebrated Thanksgiving. We started doing stuff normal. We watched, movies and stuff and TV. And it still was heavily controlled, but it was way more. What probably is normal. But still was kind of isolated. Like I said, my father was in a religious cult. My mom is an evangelical Pentecostal, and the kind of singing in tongues and dancing in the aisles and blah 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 blah. And but she's non-denominational, but it wasn't an if we could go to church. It was mandatory. We had to go to church. We didn't have a choice, and we were forced to go to church. And we didn't just go on Sundays, like, some people. We would go sometimes on, Fridays, and sometimes on Wednesday night or Thursday night, or sometimes my mom would do other stuff. But we had a lot of influence. And my mom was also a real big believer in demons. And she, and also, to me, not masturbating. And the first sexual experience I had was sometime around 7 with a girl who was about 12. And from that point on, I masturbated, and I got caught several times by my mom or my dad, and I got punished severely and told that it's evil and it's gonna bring demons on me. And when I was a kid, I actually believed that I had demons, and I was terrified about that, but I couldn't stop being me. And I remember my mom several times walking around the house and putting oil on the windows and doors to keep out the demons, and praying and stuff. And my mom was fanatical. I mean, my mom punched and beat the shit out of me one time. I ditched school with my friend, and we stayed home and we were painting our bikes. Well, the school called and Mom came home, and she punched me about 5 or 6 times. I punched him about 2 or 3 times. And I was more scared that her punching him would mean that she's going to go to jail. Now I wish that she would have. She deserved to go to jail. She fucking punched us. Yes, I ditched school, but it doesn't deserve you to beat your kids. I'm totally for nonviolence. And it also, anyways, even if people are for that, it's not like that my dad was spanking and beating the shit out of me, and I still got suspended for school. I still was getting expelled for fighting. I still was stealing. I started actually breaking in, and stealing food from the neighbor's house, because my dad, had locked me out of mine eventually. I also was going to school and stealing kids' lunches, periodically, because it wasn't stopping. His abuse didn't ever stop the behavior. I still was doing bad things, breaking the rules, and all the time. And let me go back to about not eating at school to remind me. So the school, because they finally caught on that I'm actually stealing food, but not stealing the whole lunch. I'm just taking the pieces. And they asked me, well, why am I eating my lunch? And I said, I don't have one. And they called and told my father, and he said he doesn't, he's not going to give me one. And so the school said, well, we can give, him like a free school lunch. You just have to sign this paper. And he said he wasn't going to sign the paper. And so they told me that they can give me like the scraps and leftovers at school. That the kids that get free lunch, didn't eat, and no one bought for lunch, if they had money. And so what I would do, it felt pretty bad when you have to. All the kids knew, it was pretty shameful that I wasn't even getting I was getting the leftovers from what the kids that got free lunch got. And so I had to wait. Also, they would all eat because they had to make sure all of them got food. So I had to always be the last. It wouldn't even matter about trying to get in line because they all had to go first before I could get anything. And sometimes it would be like 2 apples, and a milk, or 3 milks and a bag of chips. I mean, I didn't even know what it was going to be. Could have been just 3 apples. And it's real shameful. I mean, even though, yes, it was great, I was still getting something. It's pretty fucking shameful, man, and it feels really fucking bad as a kid. And so, being this different and stuff still socially isolated me. And I really didn't have a lot of friends, and I didn't know how to really act correctly around people anyways. And I was constantly doing delinquent things besides fighting. I would bring firecrackers that I had found or something, and I'd break something, or like I put super glue in the school locks, or I was doing bad behaviors. I was just an angry kid, and also that I also forgot. My dad also felt that he really shouldn't have to spend money for us kids on clothing. So he would go to the Goodwill and we would look for the absolute cheapest thing that would be close to my size. And that's also a pretty, shameful thing. And then he would buy sometimes stuff with like holes in it. Or we can just patch that up. Or, it'll get ripped anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Just buy it with holes. You'll buy it, broken. Because it's cheaper. And I remember he saw this pair of like orange and bright orange and black soccer cleats, and he said he was going to buy that for shoes. And I remember like crying, don't buy that for me. I don't want to have to wear those, for shoes. It's embarrassing. And he bought them. It was like 25 cents or something. So he bought it. It was so cheap. How could he pass it up? And but the thing is, when I wore them to school, the school says I can't wear those to school because of the cleats, like rubber cleats. You can't wear those. So they kicked me out of school for the day, which was very embarrassing. But it's just all things like that, just just on and on of shit that my dad did to humiliate and embarrass me and isolate me from the world. I mean, I remember too, like sometimes I would be even eating like food that he made, and he would just grab the plate for me and said I had enough. I'm done. Or if he was done, he would just say I was done. Anyways, we'll go back to later in my life. So, the areas I lived in were rough, and I wouldn't say that I exactly joined gangs, but I basically, was very close friends with a lot of people in gangs. And I've been shot at, and I've been stabbed, fighting, I've been jumped. And anyways, I also got on drugs. I'm not gonna give you my whole thing about everything I've done, but I did a lot of drugs. I didn't really do heroin. I did opiates, opium, and I did crack, and I did alcohol and marijuana, and I really got addicted to crack, and I felt real violent on crack and angry. And at 15, my heart stopped from smoking crack. And then at 17, I had liver failure, alcoholic hepatitis from drinking alcohol. Because I would drink, like a Jack Daniels in like a gallon bottle. I would be, I would just be insane, try to kill myself with alcohol. I'm really surprised, actually, I didn't ever get alcohol poisoning. But I think it's because a lot of times I would throw up the alcohol. I would drink a bunch of alcohol like a total lunatic, like I was trying to die. And then I would just throw up so much that I threw up a lot of alcohol that it probably got out of my system. At one time I drank at a beer bong, like 2 gallons or something of alcohol, of beer. I ended up like puking foam and suds. It was like disgusting. I passed out, woke up, in some neighbor's doggy mat in their garage. I don't even know how I got there. But I blacked out a lot. I drink till I black out. I just really fucking hated my life. I hated my life, hated the abuse, hated the things. But also because of doing drugs and alcohol, and being around gangs and aggressive people, it's not any way that you learn social behavior. How to be appropriate. I didn't know how to be appropriate. I knew how to fight and steal and do graffiti and and curse and disrespect anybody of authority. I didn't know how to do anything. And of course, everybody in authority in my life wasn't to be worthy of respect even now. Most of them were pieces of shit. But at 17, my liver failed, and also it did this. I had I had given my brother crack to smoke because he had seen me cooking it in the house, and I guessed that he went and told his teacher that this happened, and so his teacher told my mom. And it just so happens that the day that happened, I also had took a bunch of LSD and was like walking around school like a high as hell. And the school called my mom and said, "Come pick up your son. He's loaded." So my mom came to pick me up, and of course I went with her. She said that I had an appointment, to see the doctor. I was just happy to be out of school because I was high, and because I was high though, when the rehab doctor started asking me questions about drug use, I was just honest with them, which in the long run was actually good because then they knew how much of a problem I had. But then I was real violent, and I told them I didn't want to go to the rehab and stuff. But I had also, I guess I was also, I wanted to think about running, but then I thought, where am I going to run to? What am I really going to do? Where am I really going to go? Live on the street? And I didn't do that. So, anyways, I went to the rehab, and that was the first time I started to think about possibly quitting. But what happened is that's the same time too my liver decided to fail because I had gone to the point of doing so much drugs and alcohol. So in the rehab, I'm almost dying. I went like 2 weeks with a 103 temperature, and I was spitting up blood, and I got yellow jaundice, and I didn't drink liquids for 3.5 days, and I didn't eat food for about 28 days, and just almost dying, and because of the liver failure. And the whole time though, I wasn't wanting to give up. I wasn't really wanting to. But I remember I was in pain and stuff, and I remember wanting to cry about my life, about what had happened to everything, and I wanted to cry because I just felt like everything was a waste. My whole life was fucking terrible, and here I am fucking dying, and it's just a complete and utter waste. I have done nothing good, nothing at all, and just pain that they put me through, and pain I started putting myself through. And I couldn't cry because I was so dehydrated, being 3.5 days without water, and my eyelids were sticking to my eyes. And when I couldn't cry because I didn't even have control of that, that was the first time where I realized that I really don't have control of my life. I don't know why that was so profound as far as everything else that was getting fucked up, but I wanted to change. I just realized I want to die, just stop this shit, or I need to change. This is not living. This is fucking. I obviously know how to die real well, and because I'm doing a good job, but I really want to try to live. I want to be different. This is not working. And so that's where I think that I really became willing, to be sober. I just I don't ever want to do this again. I don't ever want to drink again. I don't ever want to get high again. And I gotta learn how to function better with people. I just can't keep fighting everyone and everything, and I'm like hurting and killing myself. And so I became a lot more willing. I was still very, very aggressive and violent and angry. And I carried, knives all the time, and I was thinking about stabbing people. And I had stabbed some people before and cut people. And it just felt like nuts all the time. And I asked this person who was trying to help me be sober in AA, which I was in for 18 years until I became an atheist and realized it was a religion. But I asked this person that was trying to help me, a sponsor, I said, how do I stop cutting people with knives? How do I stop feeling so violent? And he goes, why don't you stop carrying a knife? And I know, people, that this sounds like something that's very logical to just about probably anybody. But for me, that was profound, that I needed to be different, not just try to think different. And so I stopped carrying a knife, and I actually got rid of all knives, and I still to this day don't carry knives, because not because I now would probably hurt someone, but just because it reminds me that I really need to be different. But I know a lot of people aren't like that, but that's also another thing too that I realize is I've lost the right to be angry all the time, that I just can't leave it on. To me, I realize that, anger is not a bad thing in itself. Anger is a gift. It reminds me when something has happened wrong. But I see it now more like an alarm system. That if I was in my house and I'm cooking food and the alarm goes off to warn me that there could possibly be smoke, I don't just ignore it and let this alarm scream loud as possible. I turn it off. I do whatever it takes to make it stop. And that's how I see, anger today. I don't have, the privilege of, I guess, normal people to allow anger to, I guess, diffuse itself, or I don't know. It's toxic for me to stay in anger. I have to, just let it go, turn it off, realize something happened, see what I can do about it, and then turn it off. It's just toxic for me. And that's really been a big thing. I haven't physically fought somebody in like 20 years. And it's not that I haven't had a few opportunities. I just choose not to. I try to live a non-aggression life now. And I don't value it. I used to only value violence. But now, I don't want to be like that. And sometimes even it's okay if I'm not right. Because if it's going to cause anger and violence, I just rather not do that. And that's been a big change for me, is just being willing to stop and walk away, or not start something to begin with. It's been a hard thing, but a healthy thing. And then trying to it was hard also because I really didn't understand when I was on drugs, and also because of the violence done to me and the isolation that making me, like a mild sociopath. Basically, just I didn't really care about anything. The whole world felt like plastic. Nothing had value. Nothing mattered. And I had to change that, thinking that people matter. And that people have value. The world has value. I had to really change that. And it's one of the reasons why now I say I'm an axiological atheist, besides the fact that the thinking fits my thinking. Because as axiology in general, I consider myself an axiologist for everything. For every political idea, for every social idea, for every love idea, for everything. I try to use axiology and really as who I am, not really sort of what I do. And so it's in everything. And the reason why is because axiology is value theory. It's understanding goodness or value of things and in things, and how to apply that, and how to use ethics because of that, and how to socially interact because of that. some people, it seems like, it's either second nature, that they already do this without knowing the word axiology or without being told how to, like, understand what's good or goodness or to be caring or understand things have value. It's not second nature for me. I don't, or I didn't. I sort of now do, but I didn't before. I mean, how my life was, the world felt like plastic. Nothing had value. I didn't understand. I mean, I was, relatively, I guess, thoughtless or even narcissistic. I didn't understand your feelings, your pain, your life, your value. But I really, like I said, I really didn't understand my value, my worth. I didn't understand anything. And even to this day, I really try. Sometimes I don't understand. Intellectually, like I can know something, like, I should do this or do not do this, but sometimes it doesn't. It's like I still feel like I'm kind of thoughtless, where it doesn't come to my mind, and then, someone will say, well, why didn't you just do that? I mean, it makes sense. It's just, you're able to be so reasonable. Well, sometimes it doesn't make sense to me. Social stuff is not super easy for me. I still to this day sort of have problems. I mean, I've gotten a lot better really about all that because of my wife caring, and she's like a social genius. She understands. Although she's not very fond of being around people, she really, I think that she gets burned out. But she understands the social. I'm better at interpersonal, and she's better at social. But, I've had to ask her, like, we'll be watching a movie, and I look over, and she's crying. And I don't even know, why are you even crying? And then she'll say, well, it's because this person did this or this and that. Oh yeah, I guess I can see that. I've had to learn. That's why I tell people that, I feel like I have empathy now, some because it's been helped to develop because of being, explained to, or as an adult too, more people have loved me and shown me care for me to understand. That didn't happen as a child. I didn't know love. So it's still hard for me. And I do try. I do care about people. I want to. Sometimes it's just I want to understand. I want to care. I want to do the right thing. And it's not always that easy for me. But people need to understand, it's not because I don't want to. It's not because I'm not trying. I am trying. And I do care. I do want to. I do see the value. But anyway, so I have axiology to help me, like, reason or mathematically approach empathy. And that's been a lot easier for me to grasp. It makes sense why. It makes sense, and it's also easy because it gives me a standard that people have value and ideas don't have value. That's easy for me. I just can apply it universally. I'm better at big picture things. Universally, that should be done, period. Just end the story. There's nothing else to talk about. And it's a lot easier for me to grasp stuff like that. And because of that, I've been able to be a lot more ethical and a lot more caring and a lot more understanding. And I also, try to pay attention to what caring people do. So I can try to emulate that behavior. I can try to be better. I can try to be more caring. And so I really respect and value people that are caring. I want to be like that. I feel like I am like that a lot today, but it's still hard for me. It's something that it's like other people, they don't have to think about. They don't, it seems like they don't have to do. They just are caring, I really have to try. I have to work at it, and I do. I do care, and I do try, because I do want to. I really want to. I want to be a better person. I remember, like I said, when I was in the drug rehab and thinking, this isn't living. I gotta change. I remember it's like looking in the mirror and just fucking hating the person looking back. Wow, what a piece of shit. I don't want to be a piece of shit. I don't want to be that piece of crap like my father. Just fucking selfish and hurting people. I don't want to be like that. I want to be the exact opposite. I want to be someone of value. Someone who's worthwhile. Someone who cares. Someone who makes other people feel good, not someone who hurts people. And I really try to do that today. And I'm really happy to have, good people in my lives. And I'm trying to be, one of those good people to others. And I really, I really understand, empathy, like I said, kind of like a second language. And social interactions, kind of the same way. Where sometimes I can say everything right. And sometimes how I use empathy or how I use social stuff, will seem odd or like I'm saying the words wrong or have a funny sound to them. Like if you were to learn something from a second language, it's not your first language. But it's genuine. It is genuine. Like I said, it's been genuine ever since, it's like 23 years of my life, ever since, or actually 26 years ago, starting then, ever since then, looking in the mirror and just hating the person looking back, and not wanting to be like that, and not wanting to be a person that I'm ashamed of, but be a person to be, proud of, and a person that not only takes away from life or just destroys life, but, tries to give life, tries to inspire others to give life. And that's what, I really, it's a passion. And just like, to me, the atheism is an extension of that. I feel like people are trapped, people are hurting, people are being violated, people are being lied to, and people are being made to feel shameful and hurtful, and it's just all this stuff, these words saying love, and there's nothing loving about it. It's a bunch of hate and harm and shame. And I want there to be a better world. And it's a lot of work to change things. It's been a lot of work to change me. I've had individual counseling, I've had marriage counseling, I've had family counseling, I've had group counseling. I've been willing to do a lot of work. I've read a lot of self-help books, and I've done a lot to try to make myself better. And I'm still working hard to make myself better today. It's not easy, and it's not going to be easy to change the world. But someone's got to stand up and go, we got to do it anyway. We have to fight for change. And I try to do that often also, and inspire others to do that. And I do believe we can make a better world. I do believe that we shouldn't be waiting to make a better world. We can start with us. My world has become better because I have become better. And I have rigorously and without, stopping, tried to do that with everyone around me. And I know that I've been able to make a strong impact. And I've helped, people to want to be different. And I don't do it because I'm hoping, to get something out of it. Other than I just want to have a better life. And not just for me, though, but for everybody. I stopped this selfishness. I stopped this looking just inward and tried to look outward about other things and other people. And it's allowed me to be a lot better. And if I can inspire anyone to do anything, it's just to be more caring and to be more loving and to be more understanding, and to desire to be more compassionate. I think, many times in my life I wish to rethink, my anger, but I've never felt ashamed that I was a compassionate person. I've never wished, wow, I wish there was less compassion or less love or less understanding in the world. Exact opposite. I really hope that there is more care and more understanding in the world. And that's pretty much what I'm trying to be so open about my life, is that it does something good for someone else. So I would inspire, if you're a parent, please don't hit your kids. Please don't abuse your children. I don't care what you think. It does nothing but hurt them. And understanding counseling now, there's so much ways that we can be positive. Just like me learning how not to fight all the time. That we can be positive, and even if we're fighting, we can fight for things, not against, in the sense that we have to hurt something to make us strong. And that reminds me, how I don't get how sometimes guys are so willing to accept a strong guy or a guy who's powerful, but then sometimes have absolutely no ability to handle a strong woman, or think that it's valuable for a woman to be powerful herself, or even be an equal. I don't know why this feels like such a threat. It reminds me a lot just how society is in general. It's like, it's okay for certain people to be at the top, to be elite, and we idolize them. And then people that are poor and unfortunate, we shame them. It's disgusting. To me, people are all equal, and I'm for people of all races. There's only one race to me, really, in the long run. It's the human race, and there's no my country, your country. To me, it's the entire world. To me, we have made these fake things, draw these lines on maps as if they actually mean anything. It's just a bunch of land with people living on it. And the Earth is just, this ecosystem that we happen to be a part of. And I wish that we would also care more about this ecosystem we're all a part of, because it does matter. And I wish that we would, be more willing to accept science and less willing, to accept, conspiracy theories and religious claims and it's just, I don't know. I really wish that people would be a lot more open to reason. I read this thing the other day that he said, because I consider myself a rationalist, and he said, it really shouldn't be atheist versus theist, as if we have the position against theism, as if theism is the given. It really should be rationalists against a rationalist. In other words, they are against reason because they are offering something that doesn't match or fit the natural world as we understand it. So, thank you for listening to a little of my life. I'm sure I missed a lot. I'm trying to get my main point across is that, I really care and I really try, and things really matter. People matter, and I hope that I inspire someone, to care.